Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this year's episode of what in the hell, God's name, are the feds doing now? Seems to be happening a lot lately. Sorry, Dave. All right, welcome to our meeting this year. This is since the end of COVID. I believe this is the third meeting we have had since COVID kind of sort of mostly went away. So that's a good thing. We do have a rather full schedule today. Just want to talk a little bit and welcome some people. First of all, I want to welcome our board and introduce you to them. They're not all here, but most of them are here. And once I've read them out, if the board could all stand up at that point so they can see who you are, that would be great. First of all, we have Paula Otinti, who is the board president. We have Dan Hayes, who is the treasurer. Susan Zucker, who is the secretary. Denise Ricker, who is the vice president. Robert Penny, Rebecca Gill, Carol Lynn Rose, Devin Bard, Claire Lindberg, and Mark Rosaldo. It's quite a group, and they're spread out. So we're very happy to say from Lamoille County through Orange County. There's 10 of them. And if those of you who are here, could you please stand? I have to tell you that over the years, I've either served on boards or reported to boards for quite a long time. And this particular board, I'm happy to say, is the most engaged and effective board that I've ever had worked with. So kudos to all of you. I do want to recognize some particular people that are here as well. Cheryl Gilbert, who is the CEO, CFO for VANC, which is the Vermont Aging Network Consortium, which was created 2 years ago now. Cheryl started in this position in May of 2024 and has done amazing work and continues to do amazing work. Cheryl. There are some people that are supposed to be here that I don't think they are. Did Angela McMahon sneak in when I didn't see her?
Oh, yeah, she's on.
Okay, all right, great. And did Colin Hilliard from AARP get in here? No? Okay. I do want to introduce James McNerney to you. He'll be on the agenda a little later, but I do want to let you know he is here from Senator Welch's office. And I'll be giving us a little bit of an update on what's going on down in the swamp. And we'll see. I have to tell you too that the representative from Senator Sanders' office could not be here, but they did send us a written update on what they're up to. And that update is available to you if you want copies on the table over there. So you can get it on the way out. But James will be talking with us and covering most of that anyway. And Angela just snuck in. Angela McMahon, would you like to? And Angela is the Adult Services Division Director. And last but not least, we will be hearing obviously from a keynote speaker in due course. But Sarah Keating is here, and she is the Age Strong Vermont project manager. So looking forward to that. So without further ado, I'm going to turn this over to Paula, and she's going to talk to you.
Thank you, John. I'll put it up there, please. So for those of you who have been here for a couple of years, I think the first year I did this, I showed up with a Dunkin' Donuts bag with my notes. True story, right, Leanne?
Yep.
I've improved. These are withdrawal slips from Easter Eggs Bank. You know how it is, you're doing something, all of a sudden it's like the thought hits you. So I'm scrambling around for a piece of paper. This is the closest thing. Hey, so I put this picture out, right? I sent it to all of you, and I wanted you to take a look at it. And the question was, do you see yourself in that picture? I got a couple responses back, and they were, yeah, they were spot on. That's you folks. I see you folks are there. That is a very, very famous engine Cause I wasn't gonna talk about basketball, right? I promised. So we're gonna talk auto racing, my first love. That's a very famous engine in the American racing scene for many years. It's called an Offenhauser engine. All those gears do something. They move some part of that engine so the race car can race and win. Very, very successful engine. And you look at it, and it's like, oh boy, yeah, the gears turn the valves, they turn the pistons, the crankshaft, the oil pump, the fuel pump, the magneto, the spark, give a spark to start the engine. They all have a purpose, just like you folks. Each one of you is represented there. Some actually may be behind the gears. You might actually be the crankshaft and the pistons that give the organization some power. But yeah, you all have to work together. And we've talked about this in the past, and I just want to keep reinforcing this, how important it is for every one of you to do your part of the job, your job, because it interacts with every other person here. You know, from the phone call that comes into the front desk, and Liz picks up the phone and she's gonna make sure it gets the message or the person gets to the right office. Operations with Sarah. You know, again, you know my feelings, WB Sarah. You know, who but Sarah? Yeah, Sarah Mason. I always go to Sarah and say, hey, I'm in trouble. And then we look at the fundraising, the two amazing women in fundraising who have done another successful job. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, without them, you know, we'd probably be signing up for some unemployment benefits, you know, so great job. They put on some great things this year. And I'm sure probably John will talk about some of the financial stuff. I don't want to deal with that. That's why we hired John, you know. You know, when you move down the program that Kim has done with nutrition, how important has that been to moving us forward as an agency? And at the same time, helping more and more people. And how what she's done has been picked up by others. It was a model for other council on agings in the state. But I'm not forgetting anybody. Remember, it may take me longer. Caitlin, of course, that whole volunteer program, where would we be without that? And bringing on young interns, awesome. I hope you two enjoy and learn a lot from being here, because we got quality people you can learn from. And case managers, wow. I was looking for a job a year or two ago. That wasn't one I would take. You know, seriously, what it takes to do that, you know, my career in the fire service, we went to crappy stuff sometimes and saw the sad side of humanity. You know, I just can't imagine walking into someone's house and you're there to help them. Because the house is cold, because, you know, this is the house they were born in, they lived in. Social Security or whatever benefit they get, it could be so small that they can't afford to turn the heat up or buy wood or even put food on the table. I wouldn't last a week. I wouldn't last a week. So that was the point of this. I didn't forget any program managers, did I? Raise your hand if I did, because then I can really highlight you. So I think I did.
Caregivers.
Ship coordinator
Okay,
and caregiver support.
okay, not necessarily a program director, so that's why I probably haven't had a lot of interaction. But absolutely, yeah, you know, again, we've tried to, you know, touch base with all of you at some point. And I will say what John's saying about the board, this board is the most well-known board for staff in the 6 years I've been here. You know, when I've walked in previous years and staff would say, who's that? And I'm like, oh, it's a board member that's been here for 4 years and you didn't know that. So, okay, so those two folks, are they here? If they're here, stand up. Because I need to put a name and a face together. Oh, but. Oh, except, okay. So, I'm sorry. I'll have to make a note of that for next time. But, yeah, so I like coming in and seeing Bob because there's an energy there, right? You've all experienced her energy and what you do. And plus she takes my extra strawberries off my hand every fall, so I'm happy for that. And that's open to all of you. You need strawberry plants next year. And thank you. Appreciate it. Remind me your name, please.
Stephanie.
Stephanie, my neighbor. Stephanie, who else? Stephanie, it was nice to meet you. I'm sorry I didn't bring you up first, Stephanie. Stephanie, you're in this picture, so 3 times. Say it 3 times, you'll remember, right? Person's name. So there we go. That's how I see it. And that was the point of throwing that out to you. Okay. Now, the really gist of this story typifies you folks. Very popular engine back in the early 20s to the 70s in what they call midget racing. Anybody that knows anything about racing, small vehicles. Back in the 20s and 30s, wicked popular in the US. They would fill stadiums, 40,000 people to watch cars go around in the circle. Okay, truly, okay, midget auto racing in the US. This was the engine to have in that time frame. As the folks that built this continued to expand their business, it ended up at Indianapolis 500. You probably all heard of it. You may not have all been there. But again, this was the engine to have from the mid-50s through kind of the 70s. So about 3 decades, maybe 4. If you didn't have an Offenhauser engine in your Indy car at the 500, your chances of winning were slim. It was like, on average, 27, 28 cars in a 33 car field that had that engine. Or a similar, same engine, maybe a little bigger. They've made some different size engines as power-wise. Offenhauser engine. Okay. Here's the special part. There was a guy by the name of Harry Miller. Harry Miller had a carburetor business. Harry Miller was also a tinkerer. This is back in the 20s out in California. And he kind of liked boats. His thing was boats, motors for boats. And he was a tinker. He wasn't any educated person. He would try something, then he'd observe how it worked, and then he'd change it. That's all he did. Kind of hit and miss, try it, see how it works. And he was pretty successful at it. Along comes this guy by the name of Fred Offenhauser, hence the off the engine. Fred was an engineer, young guy. I think when he came over to Harry, he might have been late 20s at the time. He was a machinist. And he was a good machinist. He had been doing this since he was a young kid, a teenager, and he kept going up in these companies. He could build, he could do the machine work, but he also could build tools and dies. Very skilled. So working with Harry Miller had ideas. Fred Offenhauser could take those ideas and actually build the part without seeing any drawings, any measurements. He could build what Harry was thinking. Okay, pretty good. So they had some success, but they still weren't there yet. Then comes along this guy by the name of Leo Gosson. Leo was the engineer they needed. Leo could take what Harry was thinking, put it in drawings with all the proper specifications and dimensions and everything, hand it to Fred Offenhauser, and Fred would build the part to go into the engine that was one of the most successful engines in the United States of America, auto racing. 3 individuals, 3 different skills, 3 different backgrounds, how they grew up. Okay, bring that to you folks. Look at all the skills that you bring. Different. They're not all the same, they're different. You come from different backgrounds, you have different experiences, but you come together and you make CVCOA work better than any council Hazing in the sting, okay? It's that simple. If anybody from Agewell is here, sorry, but that's just fact of life. You know, you've duplicated. When I saw this, I went, this is us. This is the council. So I'm gonna stop now because I know we got a kind of a tight schedule, but I want to say thank you to every one of you, even Stephanie. See, I remember. I want to thank every one of you from the board. We appreciate everything you're doing day in and day out, because we know it's not easy some days, but you give us your best every day. And we appreciate that. And we are so honored to be part of it. So thank you.
Because James has to be out of here by 11, no later than 11 o'clock, so many other things going. I'm gonna ask James to go ahead now, and talk to all.
Well, good morning, everyone. My name is James McNerney. I'm an outreach representative in Senator Welch's Burlington office. I cover older Vermonters issues. I cover hunger and nutrition issues and SNAP policy. I cover military active duty and veterans issues. I cover social services like LIHEAP and all sorts of different programs. I'm sure you all can imagine it's been just an incredibly fun and lighthearted handful of side of things here recently. I wanted to share, the senator really wished that he could have been here today. I know, especially lately, any chance he can take to get back up to Vermont to hang out with his constituents. I know he is absolutely doing that, but had a scheduling conflict over in Montpelier today where he'll be speaking with House and Senate committees about what's going on in DC. So that's where I'm headed to directly after this, but he wanted me to be sure to send not only his well wishes and his greetings, but also his sincere thanks and appreciation for the work that many of you all do day in and day out supporting older Vermonters. He often says that it is, it is folks like you that have the real hard jobs, and I know that that gives him a lot of inspiration for, the tough things that he has to deal with and face down in DC. So, it's obviously, it's been kind of hard providing federal updates recently with just the weight of everything that's going on. It seems, almost a little pedantic to come in and talk about, we're working on this piece of legislation and this is what's going on in the Senate. But, just bear with me a little bit. I wanted to provide just kind of some updates as to what the senator's been up to, what's going on in DC, as well as kind of some of our priorities that we're working on. So some of you may have seen the senator traveled to Denmark here this last weekend with a delegation of House and Senate colleagues. And his main mission there was really clear, and that was to let the government and the people of Denmark know that, this administration's just atrocious attempts to coerce a longtime ally do not represent the majority of people in this country, and certainly not the majority of the senator's constituents here in Vermont. I know, like I mentioned earlier, while he does not relish any time that takes him away from Vermont, I know that he felt that this was far too important to sit out right now. So he's still, despite all of this stuff that's going on, it's like, we have a new crisis of government and democracy almost every week, it seems. He's still deeply committed to taking a stand against the administration's actions, whether they're right here in Vermont, whether they're around the country or halfway around the globe. And despite all of that extra work, he's also committed to not losing focus on the bread and butter basics, the reasons that his constituents elected him to go down to DC, and that is to fix kitchen table issues for Vermonters. We are still seeing a crisis of costs. We are in the midst of a crisis of healthcare after the Affordable Care Act was gutted and the insurance premiums were not extended. And so while we're facing all these different crises, we can't let this sort of game of hot potato allow us to lose focus on these basics as well. So our legislative teams were really focused on legislation right now that will counteract some of the worst of these cuts that we've seen over the last year through the One Big Beautiful Bill Act and others. And we're really focused on what sort of legislation do we need to pass that protects government services, that helps people keep food on the table, that helps people keep their homes warm in winter, and that helps them access vital services that they rely on. So right now down in DC, down in the swamp, as I think you rightfully pointed out, we're really hard at work focusing on passing the remaining appropriations bills to keep the government funded. Many of you know we had the longest federal government shutdown in American history back in October, and that had all sorts of catastrophic consequences. We saw SNAP dollars get withheld. We saw LIHEAP dollars get withheld. We saw Older Americans Act dollars get withheld. Really, really devastating consequences. And I would have said, up until about the start of the new year, that there was very little appetite in DC for another government shutdown. But I do think the events that have transpired here over the last couple of weeks have really kind of changed some of the sentiment down there. And so, while I maybe had a little bit more clear of a prognostication about what was going to happen here this week and into next, it is now looking pretty uncertain as to whether we may be facing another government shutdown or not. When we shut down last time, eventually we passed a continuing resolution that kept the government funded until January 30th. And so that is our deadline to either get spending bills passed or let them lapse and force another shutdown. Last week, the Senate passed 6 of the spending bills, and I believe we still have 5 outstanding that are currently being worked on this week. And included among those is the spending bill that funds the Department of Homeland Security. And that, of course, is a source of now a lot of renewed anger and contention and focus. And I think my boss has been pretty clear with us that without some really, really strong leashes and restrictions and guidelines that constrain what we're seeing in Minneapolis and what we're seeing in other parts of the country, and Maine now too, that he can't support funding the Department of Homeland Security. So again, where I thought we were had a little bit of a clearer path forward, but as rapidly as things are changing, there's just so much uncertainty right now. But that's where the focus is right now. There's a lot of work being done this week and into next to see what sort of arrangements can be made. In addition to that, we are, like I mentioned earlier, really heavily focused on legislation that is going to bring down costs for people, and that is going to especially support people in the wake of some of the damage wrought by legislation passed earlier this year. We're working very hard, and I think one particular piece of legislation I wanted to highlight for this group that I think would be of interest is legislation that would provide a significant tax credit to caregivers who reside in the same home of a relative that they're caring for. We know certainly here in Vermont that, access to assisted living, I mean, we have heard just stories and stories about wait lists going on for months and months and even years. And so for Vermonters that would choose to take care of an older relative within their own home, we want to see that they get supported and get recognized for the work that goes into that. So that's one example of a piece of legislation. But like I said, it just is, it's really hard to come up and talk about legislation that we're excited about when things are awfully scary and tenuous right now. But all of that aside, I just wanted to really thank you all for allowing me to come up here and just kind of share some of those updates. I wanted to thank John and the team for the invitation and for the incredible work that you guys do. I just as hard as it is to say sometimes, we really do have to come together here locally in our own communities to support each other. That is that it seems to me to be the really clear and most determined path forward. Like that's the way out of this mess. And so I just want to commend you all for not only showing up today to make that effort and be here for everyone, but again, for the work that you all do day in and day out. So thank you guys so much.
Often wish that I had Paula's ability to speak extemporaneously. I don't. So you're gonna have, pardon? So I wrote what I'm going to do, so that I don't miss people's names. Anyway, yeah. I struggled when I finally sat down to put this presentation together. On the one hand, I wanted to be able to acknowledge just how difficult this year has been for the agency and for our clients. But on the other hand, I also want to acknowledge the incredible work everyone in this agency has done. The two are not mutually exclusive, but I want to provide all of you with a balanced report of what we have done and what we have been through. I need not tell you in detail all the trials, tribulations, and chaos that has been caused nationally and internationally since January of last year. You can't look at any news source without that being covered ad nauseum every single day. What I can tell you is that all the real and potential cuts to programs that benefit our clients and that help to pay to keep our doors open and pay our employees has not only been existential in its effect, but has caused an enormous amount of stress and consternation for our employees and clients and for the agency itself. All human organizations have a personality and a culture. The CVCOA is by its very nature a giving, caring, empathetic entity made up of individuals who possess all those attributes in spades. When faced with the kind of turmoil which makes it unclear as to whether or not we will be able to continue to offer our clients the kind of service and assistance our mission requires, together with the concern about the sustainability of our own employment, stress levels go through the roof. Trust me, I've spent many a sleepless night stewing about this agency and its employees and clients, and I know every one of you have as well. Having said all this, with a great deal of relief, I am very happy to tell you that our direct funding from the federal government and state governments has not been reduced and appears to be stable for the foreseeable future. We will have a clearer idea of where all this is going after the end of this month, when all these bills pass, hopefully, not well, except for the 1 month ice. And when the next continuing resolution for the federal budget will be voted. Okay, enough of that. So what exactly have we been up to this last year? We continued our work to support 13 different nutrition contractors, most of whom are members of Meals on Wheels. Our nutrition team provided a range of support services, including nutrition counseling by a registered dietitian, ServeSafe classes, classes for the contractor staff on how to prepare medically tailored or therapeutic meals, as they are sometimes called, a workshop on fundraising, and much, much more. This is on top of the direct financial support we provided for the preparation and delivery of nearly 225,000 meals to 2,638 unique individuals. Our staff conducted 615 Meals on Wheels intakes for new meal recipients and 554 required reassessments. Thank you very much. Our nutrition education we offered to meal recipients was seen by 6,405 clients and others. I hope you find these numbers to be as impressive as I do. I would be remiss if I did not recognize Marcy Kreis for her work. Not only is Marcy the Nutrition Program Assistant Director, she is also our Data Systems Manager and works with all staff doing training on our CRM systems, and crucially is the lead on the annual filing of our Title III data with the federal government in a system called OAPS. This is a major undertaking that involves all agency departments that is time-consuming, frustrating, but very necessary. Marcy, please stand up. Our family caregiver support program remains a very important part of what we do to provide support to family taking care of relatives who may be disabled or living the challenges of dementia. This program, under the able direction of Beth Asen, responded to 243 requests for caregiver information and assistance and served 98 family caregivers and their families. The program also administered nearly $31,000 in dementia respite grants, funding 28 dementia caregivers. Far more funding could have been effectively youth entitled if it were available, but this grant program has been underfunded for many years, unfortunately. We were, however, able to provide an additional $5,000 in respite support to 13 additional caregivers from other funds that we had available. We also started implementing a program called Care, which is an individualized assessment and action planning program to help caregivers address balance of care for themselves and others, and to target specific use of resources. Dementia-friendly community events engage 65 individuals with socialization and support through our weekly Memorable Times online program and quarterly Memorable Times cafes, which this year were held in 4 different locations in our service area: Barrie, Montpelier, Morrisville, and Waitsfield. Finally, we held our first ever longest day benefit concert and memorable times dance in June at the Montpelier Grange. There were 40 participants in this, and a very good time was had by all. As many of you already know, Barb, who has been running this program for nearly 12 years, is cutting back to a support position, and her heir apparent, Ann Hatch, is moving into Barb's position. This became official on Monday of this week. Barb isn't going anywhere and will remain with us going forward. She has been the mainstay of this department for so long. It's going to take all of us a bit of time to think of her, to think of Ann as the new Barb. Ann may be Barb's successor, but Barb cannot be replaced. This brings me to the SHIP program. SHIP is the acronym for State Health Insurance Program, and is that part of our agency that works to assist clients with Medicare and other related healthcare insurance programs. As you may recall, last year, we struggled with the influx of people seeking help when 2 major companies pulled out of the Vermont market for Medicare supplements and Part D prescription coverage. We thought that was bad until this year, when 2 more, even bigger companies, United Healthcare and Blue Cross Blue Shield, pulled out as well. This was not officially announced until early October, and this left tens of thousands of older Vermonters desperate to find alternatives. Our own Stephanie Porter, hello again, with the able assistance of many other agency staff and a handful of volunteers, stepped up to the plate. For the full year, SHIP served 1,348 unique clients, as well as answering questions from 3,027 individuals on Medicare topics through case management and information and assistance services. Open enrollment is specifically for Part D, and there were 1,009 clients served with personal appointments through a myriad of activities, including newsletters, press releases, and social media postings. We referred clients to other information sources. We can't really measure that impact very accurately, but we know of at least 1,200 clients who did contact those other sources. We estimate that the cost savings and premiums for these clients served during open enrollment was at least $82,000 in savings to them. We further estimate that the cost savings and copays was at least $405,000. Those are big numbers, guys, very big numbers. And this brings me to case management and information in the system. The biggest challenge we have faced in case management, which I mentioned last year, has been in absorbing hundreds of new choices for care clients through the Medicaid waiver program. Many of these new clients fall outside the demographics of our traditional clients. in that they are young, sometimes in their twenties and thirties, and many have mental health challenges we do not normally see in our 60+ demographic. This has caused many issues, which I'll not go into here, but suffice it to say that once again, I am humbled by our staff's ability to get through in very trying times and experiences, and I applaud all of you. An accompanying challenge to all this has been staffing. Taking on all these clients, of course, necessitates hiring new case managers. This has proven to be much easier said than done, which has put incredible strains on existing staff, supervisors, and department directors. We are not out of the woods with this quite yet, but we are no longer feeling quite like Sisyphus rolling that big boulder up the hill and have her keep on rolling that down. Here are the numbers for your contemplation. We served 1,203 clients in case management. This consisted of 9,038 hours of time of our staff. For information assistance, we served 1,147 clients with 1,551 hours of service. Our helpline took 2,394 calls with 1,859 unduplicated clients. That's a lot of people, a whole lot of people. These kind of numbers just blew me away and would not be possible without our dedicated staff and the supervision of Kate Riley, Samantha Davis as co-directors, and the assistance of our two lead case managers, Andrew Gribben and Diane Luschner. And this brings me to our community engagement department that provides volunteer services, including our RSVP program. The department director, Caitlin Racine, and the RSVP program director, Ann Gresham, continue to do outstanding work for this critical part of what we do. Here's, pardon me. Here are some numbers. Total number of RSVP and other volunteers, 356, which includes 261 RSVP volunteers and 95 volunteers, mostly in our Good Neighbors movement. Together, they provided 21,720 hours of volunteer time. The estimated dollar value of all this time is nearly $760,000. Again, big numbers. They also were responsible for creative care kits, another program within the organization. This year, 24 kits were distributed, an enriching program for homebound adults. And the team also launched new creative aging meetings to reach out even more folks in the community. We look forward to growing this program in future years. A very important function of the RSVP program is the offering of various exercise classes from Tai Chi to falls prevention, arthritis relief, and others. These classes are taught by volunteers, but we provide the funding for training these volunteers, and we help to promote and organize these classes. This year, we offered an average of 30 classes a week, for nearly 300 older Vermonters. Again, great numbers. And it brings me to Leanne. Leanne Hoppy is our Development and Communications Director extraordinaire. She and her Assistant Director, Leah Kittredge, churn out week after week press releases, e-newsletters, front porch forum postings, Facebook, Instagram, and other postings. In addition, working with our managers and staff, they prepare grant applications, manage our website, and assist in the preparation and dissemination of just about all communications that originate in the agency. They also, of course, handle all fundraising efforts, including our year-end appeal and our one annual big fundraiser, the Hit the Trail event, which once again took place in the Oxbow Park in Morrisville this last September. For the year-end, we're not quite finished, but for the year-end campaign, we went, how much, over 100,000 did we go this year?
One.
101,000, but it was only, what was 8,000 last year? 6, yeah, so we keep on going up, it's gone up every year that we have been involved in this particular campaign. Going back to excuse me, hit the trail, bad weather notwithstanding, we raised many thousands of dollars in this event this year, and I think a good time was had by all, even if we were a little soggy at the end. Still good. What many of you may not be aware of, all of our 54 towns require an annual appeals letter, and many, even if we're not asking for an increase, require a petition to be signed by 5% of registered voters in that town before they will agree to put it on the town meeting warning. Who do you think is responsible for that? You guessed it. Yeah. And operations. No organization, and certainly not this one, can exist without a smoothly running back end. Luckily, we have that under the able direction of Sarah Mason and her staff. Sarah is responsible for the oversight of all of our offices, IT function, human relations, payroll, and much, much more. Her department is also responsible for all purchasing, including for the Medicaid Moderate Needs Program and other purchases made on behalf of our clients, and of course, everything that the agency itself uses. With all the new choices for care clients, we have taken on and continue to add the work of sending monthly billing to the contractor who is responsible for paying us, this important service that has increased substantially over the past year in particular. As this is the only thing we do that is fee for service, it is crucial that this bill be done on time and accurately so that we are paid in a timely fashion. This work is done by Renee Placey. I don't think Renee's here today, she.
Nope, she's flying somewhere.
That's like something's warm, I hope. Our information and finance coordinator, who is our information and finance coordinator, and is something that she does very, very well. As I said to all of you last year, I'm very proud of this agency, its staff, and all the wonderful things that we do to help our clients. And I know our clients would echo me when I say to our staff, that our staff does everything possible to assist them any way they can. So that brings me to my last message for you. Most of you know that I'll be retiring this spring. I tell you this with mixed emotions. When I was hired for this position in July of 21, I told the board I'd give them 3 to 5 years. But secretly was hoping to get another couple of years out of it. Fortunately, as most of you know firsthand, sometimes life just gets in the way. My wife is suffering from the early stages of Alzheimer's. Although this is not yet progressing to the truly severe problems, it is only a matter of time before it will. Consequently, at the age of 76, I think it's time I pack it in. I need to be home. And I will. This will be my last annual meeting, but if you invite me back next year, I just might come. And I'd like to go ahead, those managers who have employees who have anniversaries to celebrate, would you like to come up and do that?
I get to go first. Hi, I'm Caitlin. So I have 2 folks who have a year anniversary this year. Sorry, I'm getting a cue for standing over here. So better. Okay, good. So thank you. And so I have Emily Wilmers and Marissa Willette, who celebrated a 1-year anniversary with us right around Labor Day. And so just want to say a few words about both of them. They are truly a dynamic duo, but also have incredible individual contributions that are noteworthy. But so they joined right around Labor Day and completed training right around the start of fiscal year 2025. And to demonstrate just the impact that they had immediately, we had 97 more individuals volunteer with us in their first year than we did the prior year. It's an incredible amount. And on top of that, when we had some staff turnover and we were reassessing what we had money for, both of them offered to take on more responsibilities. Emily taking on key responsibilities for our exercise programs, and Marissa taking on key responsibilities for our creative aging program, both of which are blossoming under their leadership. And on top of that, the overwhelming uncertainty of AmeriCorps funding. So just a lot they managed in their first year. But it's not just about numbers, and I just want to share two personal thoughts about them. So I think in particular, what's most noteworthy about Marissa's contributions is most seen if you go into any of the meal sites that she supports with her. It is a resounding, "Hi, Marissa, I have an update since last time." So it's the connections you've made with meal sites that we know we undersupported for quite a while. And then I think my favorite quote about Emily, you probably know which one I'm going to say, kind of comes from one of our Tai Chi leaders who she was supporting for a few weeks, and he really just couldn't believe the support, reached out to me to make sure I knew what a gem I had in Emily. So with that, as our closing thought, thank you both for an incredible first year. What's that? Okay, great. So thanks so much, Marissa and Emily.
No, I'll just take them.
Yeah, sounds good. Hi, everyone. I have 4 people that are celebrating their 1-year anniversary. 2 of which, Jody and Lisa, came to us just over a year ago from Lamoille County Home Health and Hospice. So Lisa, she came to us with a ton of work experience in the human services industry already and brought her clients. And I really love that I can always rely on Lisa to ask the question that a lot of my other staff don't know that they should even be asking. I really appreciate that. I really value Lisa's willingness to always work with that tough client or try with those tough clients and build those relationships. So thank you, Lisa. I'm so happy you joined our team. Jody also came from Lamoille County Home Health and brought her clients with us. She came with great experience as well in the human services, but she also brought this vast knowledge of Lamoille County that I am still in amazement with. When I need to know the best food or something about a client or some sort of history, Jody's your person. I really appreciate her calmness and the support that she gives to our satellite office in Morrisville. And so thank you for joining our team and happy 1 year. Right. So Hannah has been here a year and a half, and she came from Central Vermont Home Health and Housing. Shortly after her time here, Hannah took over the role as being our Veterans Directed Care case manager. So she actually sees veterans across all 3 of our counties and supporting them to remain at home, which is amazing. She's very easy to work with, has done an amazing job growing her case management skills, and has worked amazing with our community partners and building that relationship. So we're so happy that you joined the team and happy 1.5 year anniversary. Last but not least for me is Stephanie. Stephanie joined CVCOA almost 2 years ago. When I first interviewed Stephanie, there was just, I don't think I had ever met anyone with such a vibrant personality. and that could draw you in so quick. She's a quick learner, she's a great problem solver, and truly cares about the work that she does with CVCOA. She's been an intricate part of training all of our new staff, supporting our current staff through all things Medicare craziness. And has been fundamental in double, maybe even tripling our ship numbers from the previous year. So it's absolutely amazing. I'm so grateful you joined the team, and thank you for choosing us.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kate Riley, one of the co-directors of case management, and I have 3 people to recognize. All of these people are also celebrating their 1-year anniversary. And before I do this, I did just want to say that I think this is really a celebration of everyone in this room, because there's so much that goes into our new staff, right? From the advertising, from the interviewing to the onboarding and the training, and really welcoming them into the culture of our agency. That's all of you. So thank you. So the first person I want to talk about isn't here today. She's at a doctor's appointment, but that's Angela Eastman. Angela is a Barrie-based case manager, who's really taken on the challenge of learning this work with gusto. I think anyone who knows Angela, gusto is probably the right word. You know, she loves working with her clients. She does a fabulous job, and she loves CVCOA. I think she's just really such a spokesperson for this agency and such an advocate in the community. So sorry you're not here, Angela, but thank you. Next, I'd like to recognize Jackie Auntie. Over there. Jackie is a case manager who works out of our Randolph office, and she came to us from the VNA VNH, where she was also working with Choices for Care clients. And Jackie just brings this amazing knowledge of the work, kindness, and she just sort of seamlessly fit into our team. It's like you've always been here, really. And one thing that I think is especially notable is that Jackie really has emerged as a true leader. She's the first one to answer a question. She's the first one to step up to try to help kind of work through a difficult situation. And I'm really appreciative of that. We really need that on this team, and I'm really thankful. So thanks, Jackie. Okay. And the last person I'd like to talk about today is Flower Cockkeys. Flower's in the back over there. Flower is a Barrie-based case manager. And she also has taken on, hadn't really done this type of work, and really took on the training and learning about all of this just with such enthusiasm and openness. And I think everyone who knows Flower can say she's incredibly kind and compassionate, and she brings that to the work that she does with her clients. So thank you, Flower. Thanks for coming back.
Guess we're all podium people. I'm Sarah Mason, the operations director, and I am very pleased to wish Liz Robinson, our front desk associate, a 1-year anniversary. She's been with us for a 1.5 years, and as we all know, when you're trying to take that first step to get help, sometimes that can be a really challenging thing. Sometimes it takes all week till 4:15 on a Friday afternoon to decide that you want help with housing applications. And so we have people that come in person, they call our front desk. They are eager, they circle back over and over again if they don't get a human voice to respond to them. And so Liz just has this grace. She takes a deep breath, sometimes takes a little bit of a break answering the phone. Sometimes people can get a little bit frustrated or they're feeling really anxious, but she's just a really calm, warm person. She's always making sure they know where the restroom is, offering a glass of water. And she's just been really wonderful about learning the various aspects of what we do. She works regularly with all of our departments and provides a lot of support, whether it's data entry or coming up with a new spreadsheet, different ideas and always willing to help. Always has the most boisterous laugh in the office and just a really wonderful person coming from, you know, doing LNA work and working at Darn Tough. This is a completely new environment for her. And so she has taken both her education that she's continued to pursue, as well as the last year and a half to be a huge learning opportunity, and just continues to grow with confidence. And so we're just so excited to have you, Liz. Thank you for being that warm person everyone gets to connect with her.
Okay. Angela, did you have anything that you wanted to say before I turn this over to Sarah? If you don't, that's fine. I just wanted to give you an opportunity.
It's just so nice to hear about all of the new staff that you brought on and just the kind words that you have to say. I used to work for Central Vermont Home Health and Hospice, and so there were a few people that I remember that I familiar faces from back then, but there's been, you know, such a nice, you know, we miss the people that aren't here, but it's just so nice to see all new people coming up and doing this important work, and just thank you so much. I just really loved hearing what everybody had to say today.
Thank you. Sarah Keating is, as I mentioned earlier, is the Age Strong Vermont project manager. Excuse me, project that. Yeah, and I'll let her tell you a little bit about herself before she moves into her presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna get myself set up here.
It may take a second to get our personnel organization.
Maybe so we can see the screen. Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Sarah Keating. I am the Age Strong Vermont project manager. I have been in this role for 1 year as of this week, so yay. I wanted to thank John for inviting me to speak. I see a few familiar faces and I'm really happy to see your faces because it's a little more comfortable. But I really appreciate that there are so many people here that I haven't had the opportunity to meet before, because I think that the Age Strong Vermont plan is a really important thing for all Vermonters to learn about. So that means that there are probably 35 of you who will walk away learning something new today. And I hope that you will take whatever pieces you grab in the next 30 minutes and bring them to your neighbors, to your friends, to your colleagues, and just remember to talk about Age Strong Vermont, because it really is a stone soup, so to speak. It is something that cannot happen without everybody contributing. It's not something the state can do on their own. It's not something that, you know, area agencies on aging can do on their own. It's not something the housing folks, their transportation can do on their own. It's really everybody. So data brought us together. And I'm not sure if you recognize this picture, but I don't know who this is a quote of, because I inherited this slide, but I understand the meaning of it. And this is something that has been, I would say, circulating for the last decade or so. Let's say flip. So the legislature passed Act 156, the Older Vermonters Act, in 2020, and it called on the state to put forth a process for development of a Vermont action plan for aging well. it's now an action plan for aging strong and well, but it required the aging and health departments to work together. And it brought together a group of folks in an advisory council, and they put a lot of work over 2.5 years into deciding to have an MPA, a multi-sector plan on aging, be the type of plan that they wanted to use. The work really started before the pandemic. If you look kind of back at the notes, even in the legislature, about people talking about the need for housing and the need for people to start focusing on the fact that older Vermonters are really a very large demographic and will continue to be a large demographic, maybe the largest at some point, which is the case in many states across the US. Next slide. So the Age Strong Vermont plan has 7 branches or 7 primary goals. So social connection is key, is the first one. And this really touches on something that we saw a lot in the pandemic, that if you don't have social connections, it can impact other areas of your health and well-being. Next leaf. Healthy aging for all. The focus on health and wellness is important because we really want people to enjoy the aging process and be in a place where they, emotionally, mentally, physically, environmentally feel like they will continue to belong, right? We want people to have access to healthcare and all of these branches, you'll see they're all very interconnected. Next branch, next leaf. The fight for justice. So the fight for justice is really about making sure that throughout, the lifespan, people continue to have access to the same rights that they would have had previously, and that they're not left behind. We do see, for example, a lot of Vermonters, which I'm sure many of you know, we do see that a lot of people experiencing homelessness are now older adults, and that's a concern. We want to make sure that they have access so that they are getting into housing, if they have the right to get into housing, that they're not being discriminated against, right? If people want to continue to work after retirement age, whatever that is, that they continue to be hired and that people think of including people and being inclusive. Next, please. Affordable aging is the fourth goal, and I think that this one is really hard to tackle. There's no one agency that can tackle this, right? If you're working in housing, you can do like maybe 90% of the housing stuff, and then you have to bring in some other partners. And if you're working in transportation, you can do a big portion of that. But when we talk about affordable aging, we're really talking about, it's going to be very cold in Vermont for the next 2 weeks, the way it hasn't been for many winters, for a really long period of time. Are older adults going to turn their heat down and keep it down because they don't want the rising costs? And not just older adults, I mean, people in general, right? But this is where we see that, that becomes a health risk, right? We see this. So we really have to think about what is available for people to make sure that they can stay maintaining at least the quality of life that they've had. Next leaf. Valuing family care partners. This is a really important topic. I think that, I get a little bit personal with this one. I am from Vermont originally, I was born and raised here. And then I moved away and I lived in a lot of different lovely places, and I learned a lot of great things and saw how other people do things well and don't do things well. And now I'm back here, and my family and my friends' families a lot of them are older adults, and that's why I'm back here. And I see a lot of people either wanting to come back to Vermont because they want to take care of their aging relatives, or maybe they can't because they don't have somewhere to move into, right? They can't afford the housing, or they're moving back in the situation with their older adult parents so that they can become the caregivers. And I think that to me, this conversation, there's a lot of intersections between dementia, caregiving, housing, and we as a collective, not just here, but across the state, really have to think from a kind of a large scale, like who needs to be involved in this conversation and what kind of mapping can we do to make this work, right? So that we can reduce homelessness for older adults, right? So who maybe like could live with their child if their child were to move back to Vermont and have a house. There's a lot of scenarios I can think of. Next leaf. Infrastructure for the future. There are three. This is kind of our biggest leaf because it actually has housing, transportation, and community design in it. And we really see these things as being, again, overlapping. Anything that we talk about, in all the circles that I end up being in, transportation always comes up, housing always comes up, right? So that is something that we have to tackle together. If you look at text from the Vermont legislature in the 90s, they were already talking about how we didn't have enough housing in Vermont. So this is now, what is that, 30 years? But this is a 3-decade challenge. And so it's something that we have to work together on. And, the A Strong Vermont plan provides, for example, in terms of housing, provides a good overview of housing strategies that could help. But A Strong Vermont is housed in Dale in the Agency of Human Services. They're not building housing, right? So again, it's a partnership where we have to have a lot of people providing, the nourishment to this stone soup so that we can all make it work together. Lastly. And then strengthening systems of support. So this, I'll get into a little bit more detail later, but this is about approaching support from a systems perspective, which allows us to more efficiently provide access to help when people need it most. It's not just that the system itself is important, but it's also vital that people know about the system, that they are aware that the system exists, because your resources don't work if people don't know about them, right? And so I'll give you an example. I was talking to somebody from Bennington, and they made a comment off the cuff. Well, there's only 2 adult day centers in Vermont. But I know that that's not true, right? And so it's about making sure that this person knows about the adult day centers. We still don't have enough, but we have more than children, right? And so where do we send them to get that information so that that resource becomes available to the population that they work with? If we think of things through a multi-sector lens, and we see like, okay, Joan needs assistance with meals this month because of an extra cost at the pharmacy, and I can help Joan get connected with meal assistance, but I can also help Joan get connected with somebody who can help Joan learn about extra help and see if Joan qualifies for extra help, right? And so that's why it's so important that, we are all part of this machine Paula talked about, where we're all in these, we're all pieces of the wheel. And it's really important that we work together and we make sure that people have access to each other and know about each other's work so that they can share. So I'm going to go through these slides really quickly. And there are handouts over there if anybody wants to take them when they leave, or I can email you all of these pieces of the plan. So we have social connection is key. And then we have some accomplishments from 2024. These are just examples. These are not everything, that would fill up 10 slides. But just as an example, Generations Vermont was formed in 2024 to design and develop a new multi-generational adult day center and childcare center. And Age Strong Vermont, and that should say, and the Age Strong Vermont, along with another department that works on mapping, created the social connection map to assist care coordinators and caregivers. We're always welcome for feedback. If you see some information that needs to be updated, there's an email address there where you can email about that if you go to the social connection map. In 2025, things that we've heard about, the University of Vermont Center on Aging launched Vermont Youth Leaders, creating intergenerational engagement opportunities across Addison, Chittenden, Franklin, and Washington counties. And I saw that the Central Vermont Council on Aging covers Washington, Lamoille, Orange, but also you have folks in Rutland, Windsor, and Addison. So you really have 6 counties, people in 6 counties that you're working with. So it's really great when we see this kind of work, where, UVM's in Burlington, right? That's in Chittenden County, but the work is happening in other places in the state. Next slide. Healthy aging for all. So again, accomplishments in 2024, One Care Vermont and the Cardiovascular Disease Program at the Vermont Department of Health hosted a hypertension management learning series. And in 2025, area agencies on aging increased course offerings in Tai Chi, falls prevention, chair yoga, and more. And I've been to some senior centers, and these activities are so important to folks. That's the feedback that they will give, is that, well, those people have bone builders and we don't have bone builders, right? And so I think this is my personal opinion, that one of the opportunities that exist for all of us in Vermont, we're not, if you live in the Northeast Kingdom, it's going to be different than if you live in Chittenden County, right? But the area agencies on aging, what you do really well is, you really balance, right? You balance the opportunities that people have so that they are not without just because they live somewhere more rural or more urban, depending on what their preferences are. Next slide. The fight for justice. So in 2024, that's the Department of Disabilities, Aging and Independent Living, successfully implemented a new adult protective service statute. And I believe that there was some training about that also that Dale rolled out last year, in 2024. And then in 2025, the area agencies on aging provided case management training through adult protective services. This is something that we definitely need more focus on, I think, as we have an aging population. We need to make sure that people kind of understand what neglect and abuse of older adults looks like, and then how to address it. It can be uncomfortable to be in a situation where you see something happening and not know, who to go to. We have on the Dale website and the ASD website, the Adult Services website, we have information about adult protective services. So next slide. Affordable aging. So in 2024, Vermont Saves, a workplace retirement plan for Vermonters that were not offered a plan through their employer, was established. And in 2025, Vermont Saved helped 5,200 Vermonters save a total of $4.5 million towards retirement. And according to their numbers, just over 50% were under 10 years old, which I think means just under 50% were 40 and older. So that's very good news. If we look into, farther into the future. Next slide.
The tap or
I don't know, space bar. Thank you. Oh, oops. Oh, that's okay. I think you press the arrow back. Maybe. Yes, valuing family care partners. Thank you. 2024 accomplishments. The new UVM Dementia Family Caregiver Center created a pathway to resources for families caring for those with Alzheimer's disease and dementia. And in 2025, an example of something that, contributes to the strategies that we're rolling out through the Age Strong Vermont plan. Cathedral Square created the first day respite at memory care at Allenbrook for caregivers who are caring for those with dementia. And the first participants started in December. And if I'm remembering what Kim said correctly, I think that they might already have a waiting list. It just is very popular. Next. Infrastructure for the future. So here we've got, this is on housing. And so Burlington changed their zoning regulations, and that was helpful in 2024. And Age Strong Vermont, our steering committee established a housing action work group. So we're a bunch of folks from different housing organizations, both inside of AHS and, inside of other organizations across the state. And we get together and we look at the specific strategies in the Age Strong Vermont plan and which ones we think we can work on and contact the folks that we think could be helpful in getting some of the other strategies rolled out. Next slide. And then infrastructure for the future of transportation. So in 2024, enhanced microtransit while updating the state design standards. I believe that was AOT that did that. And then in 2025, AARP completed walk audits in communities across Vermont to evaluate areas for walkability. So those are just some examples of the work that's being done. And then next slide, infrastructure for the future community design. So in 2024, AARP provided 2 funding resources, winter placemaking grants and community challenge grants. I know that in 2025, they also offered the community challenge grants. And in 2025, the Vermont Trail and Greenways Council, along with partner organizations, significantly increased the number of accessible trails in Vermont. So if anybody's ever taken one of the rail trails, and then if you're up like in Richford, they've started paving part of it, so it's really accessible for people who maybe are in wheelchairs and those types of walkers. And next slide. I'm keeping up myself here. So this is the last branch that we talked about, strengthening systems of support. In 2024, the Choices for Care program through the Department of Disabilities, Aging and Independent Living expanded the provider network to include non-medical home care agencies. And in 2025, the Department of Disabilities, Aging and Independent Living launched a direct care workforce marketing and recruitment campaign to address workforce shortages. I was really impressed how many people celebrated their 1-year anniversary. I think that says a lot about the amount of work you've done with your workforce development. Next slide. So you might have to ask the data determining the strategies. Yeah. So we want the work to be the work to be data informed moving forward, and also it was when they rolled out the plan. A lot of press the space bar again. A lot of the data that was available was used in creating the Age Strong Vermont plan in the beginning. In 2025, we worked on data briefs, and the data itself is not from 2025. Most of the data is from 2023. A little bit of it is from 2019 through 2022. But they came out in 2025, and just some of the data briefs that were created talk about, the association between having a lower income and high healthcare costs and the negative impact on older adults. That's in the health outcomes related to economic well-being data brief. Adults 45 and older who report always or usually feeling socially isolated are significantly more likely to experience transportation insecurity. That's in the health risk due to social isolation. We also just completed a project with Lerner College of Medicine students, and they will be having a poster session next Wednesday at UVM at the Goal Gallery. And essentially what they found, they interviewed Vermonters across the state, and they talked about their results. And what they found with transportation and isolation versus loneliness and some of the health outcomes. And then the unintentional falls and older adults data brief. It talked a lot about how the older we get, the more likely we are to fall. Some people who report having certain comorbidities are more likely to have experienced a fall. And I think one of the things that's really important with the data briefs to recognize is that the data comes from the surveillance team. Most of it is self-reported data. So when we talk about things like substance use or falls, sometimes people won't self-report accurately, right? So I think it's really important to have the whole picture. This is part of the picture. And then we have other data that we look at. Next slide, please. So I think you have to hit it one. Oh yeah, okay, so January, The folks at Dale and, created the position I am currently in, the project manager position. And then in February, they released the year one report. And in March, we were at the State House. Mary Hayden of V4A, hosted us, and I think several, Bank was there and several folks from other area agencies on aging came, and that was a great day. In April, we held a presentation about multi-sector plans on aging alongside the state of California at the On Aging Conference in Orlando. And that was really interesting to see because New Hampshire is also working on this work, and Maine is working on this work, and Massachusetts has their work, and Rhode Island is rolling out their plan, their multi-sector plan on aging. And so we have a lot of states like immediately around us that we can be working with and learning from. So we don't have to reinvent these wheels, you know, to me. If there's good information and it's about a demographic that's similar to yours and it worked, you know, it's something that we can try, and we don't have to waste too much energy kind of getting it up and going because there's already a model in place. So I think that's great. We had an Age Strong Vermont learning series that we hosted last year. It was open to folks within Dale. And so that went well. We talked a lot about, you know, the pillars related to aging. We talked a lot about ageism and the experiences of a lot of people, within their roles, their positions, and also in working with clients and participants, people they serve. The Housing Action Group was started first in June. We met for the first time. And then in July, might have to press it again, I'm not sure. Yeah. So the local plans on aging and resource guides. So we met with communities around Vermont to discuss their plans on aging, and that is work that we're continuing to do. Kate Martin of the UVM Center on Aging got us together with some UVM students, and we're working to create a new resource guide similar to what Cove created back in 2022. I don't think we're gonna print a lot of those, but we do want to get them out there and get a few of them printed and have them in locations where people can easily access the information, because again, if people don't know about it, then it's an access issue. And then the local multi-sector plan on aging, so there's some work happening in Heartland and in Windsor, Wyndham counties about with the, what is their name? Wyndham. Has anybody heard of them? Oh, they're a great group of folks. They kind of started their own organization. But they're doing a lot of work around aging and making sure that services are available. And they have a project manager now in the Bradford Memorial Hospital who works partially for them and partially for the hospital. I think that her position is funded somehow there. And so she's able to do a lot of work with the community at large, and also related to themes that are really prevalent in the Age Strong Vermont plan. Next. And then just 2025 monthly activities. So we publish a newsletter every month. So if you'd like to sign up for that, or you know somebody who would, that's great. It's not super long. It usually comes out the second, third week of the month. October, Age Strong Vermont was awarded a $25,000 initiative grant from the Vermont Community Foundation. And then from February to June, we conducted a Google Performance Max campaign, and that drove traffic on our Age Strong Vermont website. So that was great to see. From February to September, in partnership with the VDH surveillance team, we created the data briefs that I went over. And from January to June, agencies and advocates connected their policy priorities to Age Strong Vermont goals throughout the legislative session, which they will do again now, this legislative session. Next slide. So this is a little bit more about your work, because I think like standing here and talking to you about what the Age Strong Vermont plan is, you know, it might be somewhat interesting. Some of it might be new. A lot of it isn't, you know, in terms of thematically, you know this work. If you could click on the, great, thank you. So these are events and activities that I found online that the Central Vermont Council on Aging had engaged in the last year or two. And I just thought it could be a really good activity for you to think about how, you know, if we just look at the overarching goals, social connection, valuing family care partners, healthy aging, affordable aging, you know, can you see where your activities already fall into the plan? So like, you're already contributing to the stone soup, right? This is an example of how it's not just that we can't do it without you, it's that we can't do it without us. It's really important that people get involved in the Age Strong Vermont plan and don't see it as something that's out there, but start to take their own ownership of it. Next slide. Oh, sorry. Stop doing stuff. Really full there. You did a lot of great work though. And so then, you know, I believe that I got this from your area plan? Yeah, your area plan, thank you. So just moving forward, you know, as you do your own work, if you have a moment to look at the Age Strong Vermont plan and just find a place where like, okay, this is something like I am in case management, and so valuing family care partners is something that I work with. Here's the strategy I'm contributing to. I would love to know about it. Like, please email me, because that way, you know, we can start kind of a database where we kind of track what we are all doing across Vermont to make this plan ours. But I also want people to think of it as their own and like really see like, I'm doing this work and I'm contributing to making Vermont this amazing place where everybody can age in an age-friendly state and enjoy aging care. Funds, follow-ups, and next steps. So when you leave here, I hope you will choose a goal area of the plan, read through the objectives and strategies. I'm not asking you to read through the whole plan, just find that goal area of the plan that speaks to your heart or your brain, whatever, and read through the objectives. There's usually 3 to 4 objectives in each goal area, and then there are anywhere from 2 to 10 strategies under an objective. And then just find the ones that identify that work for you, and speak to you professionally or personally, where you feel like you're already contributing or where you feel like you'd like to contribute. Sign up for our newsletter and let me know. Next slide. We've got 7 goals, 30 objectives, 164 strategies. There's definitely something for everyone there. So that's just an overview of them. That first kind of bigger white page, that's what the Age Strong Vermont plan looks like. And we don't have our year 2 highlights out yet, but we do have our year 1 highlights report and then the short 1-pager. And those are over on the table if you want to have a look, or they're online. We have Age Strong Vermont website. Oh yeah, great. And if you email me at agestrongvermont@vermont.gov, I will respond. So thank you very much for the work that you're doing.
You have time for questions if anybody has questions?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Anybody have questions?
I got a question. Yeah. Where was the adult day in the center built in 2021? Yeah.
It hasn't been built.
Yeah, I have.
And
I can answer that. It's, the grant that you're very familiar with, went out, I think, in 2020. And it's taken a long time to find a location. So at this point, we believe that a location has been identified near Berlin Health and Rehab. So they're still in the process. It's going to take multiple years to build and open, but it's really exciting as a location and a vision and a plan to make it happen in this area, because it's really a missing piece with these communities.
Just so you know, the CVCOA has been the fiscal agent for that whole grant process. We know it quite well.
Great.
Hi, yes.
Hi, where does home share fit in?
So Connor is actually in our housing action work group, which is wonderful. And there are specific strategies in the plan that talk about home share. I think that, my perspective in the housing action group is that Connor brings to the conversation knowledge, right? That is able to be shared with AARP, with VHFA, with all the folks, and then that really helps everybody understand. Where home share is at, because they're not in all counties in Vermont yet, but that is a goal.
Yeah.
Because once home share is in all counties, there are a lot of other opportunities that can be opened up, in terms of affordability, I think, so, yeah.
Mine's a little bit, maybe a narrow question, but someone had mentioned age straw, and it's the first time I've heard it, I think at like. It was one of the state meetings recently, and it brought me to your site, so I was looking for like dementia support, or sorry, Parkinson's support. And I was like, oh, that's not really included in any of this information, like certainly Alzheimer's and dementia is. And didn't know if there's just really not that much of a need in Vermont, or.
Oh, no, I think that there's a need. In previous life, many decades ago, I was a personal care attendant for a man who had Parkinson's, loved him dearly. And I think in the plan itself, it really is an overarching plan. We are redoing the website right now because, to your point, we want folks to go to, whatever, healthy aging, right? And be able to say like, oh, I need resources for Parkinson's, and then I can click on this one place, because that's one thing I think more generally at the state that we're working on too, is just making our websites more available so that it's easier for people to access, to follow. If you want information on Parkinson's, the same site that hosts A Strong Vermont, the Vermont Department of Health Brain Health portal, has information on Parkinson's. But you can also email me and I'll email you back what at the meeting. Yeah.
Anything else?
I just have one more question. When you, in the very beginning, the silver tsunami.
Yes.
The first baby boomers just turned 80 January 1st.
Yes.
So it's coming.
Yes.
And one thing I've not heard anywhere talking about as far as housing.
Yeah.
Like I look at my neighborhood.
Yep.
And there are 8 houses on a back road in East Montpelier that within the next 10 years are probably not going to be occupied,
Right.
because people are in their 80s or 90s. And I wonder if anybody's done any demographics about that. That people are leaving their homes.
Yeah.
And not coming back to them.
Yes. Yes.
And that it's going to open up a whole.
I know
area.
folks have talked about it. I know that it's on the housing commissioner's radar. I mean, I don't work over there, but I still have a sense. And so I know it's on the housing commissioner's radar. And one of the conversations that happened is, okay, we're in a housing shortage now. But to your point, of this generation of folks that we're at the beginning of 80s, right? When they start to move into assisted facilities or pass away, that's going to increase, that will increase a large amount of housing availability. But at the same time, we have to consider the old housing stock. If you drive around Franklin County or parts of Orange County, right? I mean, there are just homes that 20 years ago seemed like they were up and running, and now they're falling in on themselves. And so, that's why a multi-sector plan on aging is so important. Yeah, good point. Thank you.
And just a point of information on the housing issue. I was thinking about this the other day. I bought my first home in 1976. And this was in Valley Cottage, which is in suburban New York. I was working in Manhattan at the time. I paid $39,500 for that condo. It's a 2-bedroom condo, it's quite nice, blah, blah, blah. If you take a look at the inflation tables alone, at $39,500 was almost $340,000. Where, in what world is $340,000 a starter for anybody? I mean, it's nuts. And the problem is, it's not just inflation, it's everything else that has driven things down. Problem is that income has not kept up with costs. And I don't know what we can do about that. It's a national thing. But it did blow me away when I sat down and did that calculation. But it's one thing to say, these people are gonna be dying, the house is gonna be available. Do you have $500,000 to buy that house if you're gonna, even if you're an old person? I can't afford a $500,000 house.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it's craziness.
There is the 802 homes toolkit that came out recently or is in the process of coming out. And that's interesting to your point because it talks about the type of housing that we need. And it provides builders with plans to just build housing types. And to some extent, what we need in Vermont is starter homes, you know, that are one level that older adults can downsize into.
Yeah.
Right? So it is cyclical.
Yeah.
I made my living before I took this job as the executive director for the Illinois Economic Development Corporation. We did that for 11 years. I'm very, very familiar with these things. And one of the problems is building Indian housing. Is A, it's incredibly expensive to do that. B, it's starting to change, but the regulatory environment in the state has been such. This has changed a little bit, and I remember quite distinctly talking to the president of Union Bank, who was my board president, we were talking about this. And he confirmed to me that if you're a developer and you're building housing, okay, great. 30% of your cost is gonna be eaten up with meeting regulatory issues, Act 250, and all these things. And what happens, because of that, you get everything built, you go to get what's called permanent financing for this, and it doesn't appraise high enough to cover it. So where do you come up with that gap? Well, it's just, you know, it doesn't work. So, you know, it is a huge issue. And I don't know that, again, that we can necessarily take care of it. We need to be aware of it.
Yeah.
And at least where we can, we'll start putting some fingers in the dike.
Well, I think a lot of people don't know. I mean, you have knowledge that I don't have, you know, for many reasons. But I think that your historical knowledge is really valuable and we need to retain that, you know, for our own sakes, if nothing else.
Okay, sorry for the rant, but this is,
No,
this is.
great.
It's bugging me for years.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I think that about wraps it up. I think that was incredibly informative, Sarah. Thank you so much for being here and doing that. It was great. And with that, I think we're done. If you have any questions for me that I can answer, I'll be happy to do that. But I'm not going anywhere for a while yet, so I'm still around, whether you like it or not. But there's still some food left back there. There are things that you can pick up on the table. James, before he left, said he left some of his business cards on the table with one of